Some spirits like to play tricks. Some seek revenge, burning with anger till someone pays. Then there are rare few who do something else. They deliver justice. This is a story about one night with such an entity. This village was quiet most days, but everyone knew about the temple on the hill. The temple was old, with stones blackened by rain and age. The villagers said the air around it was thick, with the weight of many prayers and some secrets. And there was a priest. Devrao was his name. He had a strong voice, a voice that carried far when he called prayers at dawn. People respected him. Many said he was the last guardian of the old ways. But let me tell you, children, even the strongest voices sometimes hide soft cracks. Richa was just a young girl, quiet and kind. She lived with her family near the village, in a small house with a tiled red roof and neem tree that shaded their courtyard. At first, she was like any other child. Her laughter rang out as she raced through the paddy fields. She would help her mother pluck hibiscus for the puja, and on hot afternoons climb onto the roof just to watch the kites floating in the distance. She was always the first to join other children when they played by the well, her hair flying loose as she ran, her voice carrying far into the mango groves. Her father adored her. Every evening he would bring her a small sweet from the bazaar, a jaggery candy or a folded cone of chicky. And she would run the door the moment she heard his footsteps. He taught her to light the lamp at dusk, guiding her small hands so the flame never wavered. She loved sitting on his shoulders as they walked into the river bank during festivals, feeling taller than the crowd and certain that nothing in the world could touch her. But after her father passed, something changed. They said he had gone to the market one morning and never came back. The news spread through the village like a chill wind, leaving only silence in its wake. Neighbors spoke in hushed voices, some shaking their heads, others muttering that the gods sometimes take without warning. Ever since, Richa had been quieter than before. She no longer rushed to play with the other children by the well, nor ran barefoot down the lanes. She lingered in corners, her gaze drifting past people, fixed on things that no one else could see. Some villagers said her eyes looked older now, as if they carried a weight far heavier than her small body could bear. The brightness that once drew everyone to her seemed to have dimmed. Sometimes, when she thought no one was listening, her lips moved in a faint murmur, repeating her father's last words Words that he had spoken to her alone, just before leaving for the market. Words that only she managed to catch. Words that people could never really understand. Some claimed that she was only grieving, clinging to a memory. But others whispered that those words were not meant for mortal ears at all. One morning, the crows in the village started circling more than usual, their black wings casting strange shadows over the rooftops. Mirrors in Richa's home began to crack, delicate, like a spider's web catching the light. The villagers grew afraid. Whispered words passed between house to house. Bhoot Badha, they said, which meant possession. They wondered quietly, has a spirit chosen to trouble her? Bhagat Dev Rao was not pleased with what people were saying, but not as affected as people thought he would be. Richa's father was a good man, but he had spoken against Dev Rao. Pride had settled deep in Dev Rao's heart, and with it, a bitterness that no one saw. Sometimes, when you hold on too tightly to respect and power, it can twist a man. And Richa's father could see that man. Every conversation between Dev Rao and him was turning into a debate. The rift that was growing almost daily had no cure. Richa's father once stood at the temple courtyard and called him a fraud. He said that the gods no longer listened to Dev Rao, said his chants were empty. And though Richa's father was gone now, the sting of his words still clung to Dev Rao like dust on an old idol. When Richa began to change, when her whispers grew strange, when she would answer questions no one had asked, the fear in the village thickened. Neighbors avoided their doorsteps. Women stopped calling Richa's mother, Sushila, to join the evening chores. The children who once ran with Richa now crossed the road to escape her shadow. Sushila, already hollowed by grief, could no longer bear it. She had no choice but to seek help from the very man her husband once mocked. Bhagat Dev Rao laughed when she called him. The irony was too funny to him. Yet he listened. He watched the girl with a gaze that lingered too long. To soothe his previously bruised ego, he asked, "Won't your husband hate it? Oh, wait, he left you to struggle, didn't he?" His words hit like a slap. Sushila lowered her head. Her cheeks flushed, a furious red. She did not know whether the heat rising in her face came from shame or rage. After all, Richa's father's body was never found. Some suspected him of abandoning his family. With half a smile and voice dipped in honey, Dev Rao assured the grieving mother. His words carried no tremble, no hesitation. There was something in the way he spoke, so calm, so certain. that it wrapped around her like warm cloth. She joined her hands, offering her prayers, and sobbed. Devrao was a sharp tongue, but not cruel, or so it seemed. Before leaving their house, Devrao gave the mother one quiet instruction. Lock the girl in her room. She must not wander before the nightfall. Spirits are clever when dusk is near. The mother hesitated. But she's just a child. Devrao only smiled, leaving with a promise he'd return after sunset. Richa's mother did as he asked. As the sun dipped behind the trees, the light turned orange and strange. Richa was locked in. The little window in Richa's room faced the woods, the old side, where no one went after dark. From time to time, her mother swore she saw Richa standing at the window, eyes wide, lips moving without sound. Not scared, not crying, just watching, as if something out there was speaking to her, or worse, waiting for her. Sushila tried to tell herself that it was nothing, just a child's restlessness. But in her bones, she knew Richa wasn't watching the forest. She was listening to it. After sunset, Devrao arrived with his brass kamandalu. The crows outside Richa's house cried endlessly, their shrill voices scratching the silence. He stepped into the courtyard, his eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. Something felt off. Inside, Richa's mother looked drained, not just tired, as if whatever haunted Richa had begun feeding on her too, pulling pieces of her soul away. At Devrao's command, Richa was released. He began the usual lines about the spirit being strong, dangerous, and unpredictable. The kind that you hear in every horror tale. But before he could finish, a howl broke the trees. Devrao and Sushila turned to the window, startled. That's when they saw Richa, climbing and crawling up the wall like bones didn't exist, like gravity didn't exist. She sat like a spider at the open window in front of them. Her mother screamed. Devrao, who almost fell, dug his hand into his kamandalu and threw Gangajal at Richa. The water struck her, and she fell, hitting the floor hard. Sushila rushed to her, sobbing. Richa whimpered, hurt but breathing. A single drop of sweat rolled down the Bhagat's forehead. His Adam's apple bobbed sharply as he swallowed. His eyes were fixed on the window. Lips parted. He whispered the name he had not planned to speak that night. Vetoba. Word spread quickly. By evening, the whole village knew what Devrao had seen. When Devrao declared that a ritual must be performed at midnight, no one dared question him. The hours deepened. The villagers gathered near the temple. Torches flickered in the warm wind, their flames casting tall shadows on the stone walls. Devrao stood tall, his hands raised, chanting words in old tongue. The air grew thick with smoke of vetiver and sandalwood. He called upon the Vetal, the king of spirits, telling the villagers only His Holiness would drive the evil out of Richa and save her from the strong grips of this spirit. Now kids, Vetoba, Vetal, however you call him, is a no ordinary spirit. He doesn't haunt the woods or chase after people like the stories say. He waits, he listens, and when he is called, truly called, he doesn't just come, he judges. As the chants grew louder, the flames turned blue. The wind stopped altogether, and the shadows seemed to lean closer, like silent watchers. Devrao's voice flattered, and then came a voice from Richa.
You used his name, but you did not call him.
The crowd fell silent. The flames swirled around, welcoming the king of spirits. Devrao was backing away from the flame. It was not what he expected, for he had lied. Vetoba had arrived and he was not happy.
This girl is no host to a wandering ghost. You made her pay now for your sins.
The Vetal said. The Bhagat's mind was racing. This wasn't how it was meant to be. He had thought he could control it, summon a lesser spirit, frighten the girl, tarnish her father's memory, and secure his own place as the village's holy man. That was all. A trick of shadow, a little fear, and nothing more. His mind replayed the memory of when he called forth the spirit of the restless child. He had not realized what he had touched. He had not known it carried such hunger, such rage. He had not known that it was capable of killing. And yet, a man was dead. The weight of that truth pressed down on Devrao's chest until every breath felt like he was choking on his own sins. Killing went against everything he preached, every summon he thundered in the temple's courtyard, and still the deed was done by his hand through his greed. The restless child was slipping further from his memory. The spirit's envy was stronger than Richa's will. Devrao had tried everything. Sacred mantras whispered until his throat bled, holy water flung, offerings at the altar, but nothing held. Each act only seemed to make the spirit more vicious, more determined to tear Richa's life apart. He knew if the girl slipped fully into the vicious child's grasp, only one spirit could be summoned. A spirit strong enough to claim her. a spirit strong enough to command the other spirits. An entity he never intended to call. His wrongly worded mantra, though, was accepted by the king of spirits. The wolf howled once again. The spirits of the forest gathered around the temple. All pointed toward the dry well. Some villagers dared to peek. The torchlight revealed what Devrao had fought so hard to keep hidden: the body of Richa's father. By the sacred fire, Richa was listening, her head tilted as though catching a whisper, her lips moving with words not her own. The dead were speaking to her, revealing the secret Devrao had hoped would remain buried. Her small body trembled. She was caught between the living and the dead, her soul tugging loose like a frayed thread. Devrao's heart hammered. He just wanted his image restored, but here he stood, ready for the consequences. His body began to tremble, first his hand, then his leg, until his whole frame shook like a dying tree in a storm. His mouth opened wider than seemed natural. Gasp tore through the crowd. Richa slumped beside her mother, stared blankly ahead, but her eyes were clear now, unclouded. Devrao's back arched, his feet lifting an inch from the ground. A hush fell over the gathering. Firelight flickered across stunned faces. Slowly, there were murmurs. Someone gulped. Someone whispered a prayer. Others covered their eyes. Devrao's face twisted in agony. He tried to close his mouth, but the spirit forced it open to the extent it tore. What came out was no human sound. A long, broken scream, shattering through the night like glass, splintering in slow motion. The fire flared, not blue, but white hot. Then his body collapsed. He muttered nonsense now. Riddles, chants, lost verses no one understood. The great Bhagat of the village was now reduced to husk, a man emptied by the truth he never meant to face. And Richa, she stood up. Her mother reached for her, brushing her trembling hands over her daughter's hair, as though making sure she was real, alive, whole. And she was. The village watched her in silence, unsure what to say. Outside, the first ray of the sun touched the temple walls. The night was over, and judgment had passed. So, remember this: when truth is buried and the dead don't haunt, the Vetoba comes, and he never forgets. Better be honest, huh? Safer that way.